Hello and welcome. So here's what I'm imagining. I'm imagining that there's a single or solo mum out there who's maybe just left her relationship, who feels like she has nothing much more than the phone in her hand. And she's desperately searching for a signal that things will be all right. So I want this conversation to be that signal to her that if she trusts herself and leans in, gets curious and just carries on, she's on the verge of a life that she probably hasn't even dared to dream of yet. So I've invited Lottie Moore to speak to us today because she's a modern medicine woman and a solo mother who headed to live in Burkina Faso, where you volunteered with an aid organization and healed, maybe more importantly. So when I asked Lottie who she hoped this conversation might help, she said parents who might be feeling like they can't do it alone or are emotionally drained. So welcome, Lottie. And I would absolutely love it if you would tell us a little bit about your journey as a solo mum, first of all.
Oh, thanks, Claire. Hello, everyone. So I became a solo parent when my daughter was 1. She's now just about to turn 26, to give kind of picture of what that looks like. And I became a solo parent when I had her father arrested. He was very abusive, and so found myself on my own, and went through a few years of him stalking me, harassing me, homelessness to try and get away from him, and trying to build a new life, and it not really working very well. I'm feeling very low, very depressed, very lost and broken, really. And then it was just a chance conversation with a guy from Burkina Faso who had an aid organization over there, who turned to me and just said, "Come to Burkina Faso." And I said, "Okay." um, as you do. And less than a year later, I'd raised about £10,000 to support myself to have a year in Burkina Faso. And so we went, and that was when I turned 40 out there, and my daughter turned 10 out there. So to kind of give you the picture of the time. And it really was a time where, she took her shoes off, I took my watch off, and we just hung out and healed, I think, really, and just reconnected with an inner power, but also like a new inner power was fueled up in me. And then when I came back from Burkina, slightly naively looking back on it from where I am now, I thought, I'm going to start like a job where I can pass on the wisdom that I'd learned from the women there, particularly over here. So I had a job lined up as a waitress in a cafe for when I came back. I was a social worker before I went, just to kind of give you the picture there. But I just had a little job lined up as a waitress in a cafe, and that was 2010. So during the recession, 2 weeks after I got back, the cafe went bust and closed down. And I said, "Oh, I haven't got a job." And so along with some friends, I started a charity to build schools in Burkina Faso. And I also trained as a life coach and started coaching. And as part of the charity, I project managed a Kilimanjaro trek, and I noticed the difference that made in people. We did it differently to most charities, so kind of getting people to bond quite a bit before we went to the mountain. And I just noticed the difference that made. And I started running mountain treks as part of my business for women in the Atlas Mountains, so to the highest point of North Africa. And so, things just grew from there. Somebody said to me, if you like taking people out of their comfort zone, you should try firewalking. And here I am 15 years later, training firewalk instructors, training master instructors in quite a unique way, working with the ancestors of the land, living in Ireland without regular electricity or any running water. you know, at 56, I cannot believe like where I am. But yeah, that's, I mean, I could go on for hours, but that's
Amazing.
so.
So one thing, when I listen to your story and knowing the journey of a lot of single or solo mums, I'm wondering, so you spoke about how you made that decision, a really strong decision to go to Burkina Faso with your daughter, and I'm thinking, okay, and what happened with her dad at that point? Because that's a place a lot of women get stuck. They want to make moves in life.
So he had taken me back through the family courts multiple times to try and get contact with her, and he'd had to go through a program with the domestic violence intervention, and so lots of things. But at that point, he was not allowed any contact with her. He was allowed to send her a card once a month, but it was considered too high a risk for him to have physical contact with her. And so I didn't even ask him. I decided that that's what we were doing. He was not very happy about it when he found out, and he actually took me back to court again because of that. But I was numb to it all by then, Claire. You know, I just didn't give a hoo-ha what's it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just think these insights into the actual journey, because, you know I've spoken to women, I've coached women who are in this situation where they feel they can't make a move because they will be taken to court, and they, it stops them from doing things that would bust their lives wide open, really change things for them. So I think it's great to hear you say you did it, and there were consequences, but and each situation obviously is unique in terms of what's actually going on and whether access to kids would be granted and stuff like that. But to hear a journey of somebody who knows they probably, given the history, will be taken to court and does the thing that they know intuitively, I guess, is the right thing to do, just felt called to do. So thank you so much for that.
I mean, packing your bags and going to live in the second poorest country on the planet, which Burkina Faso was at the time, is quite extreme. It's probably not going to be most people's circumstance.
People let this, stop them from moving 30 miles away.
Exactly.
Which would drastically change their life. So the extreme of, look, Lottie did this too.
Yeah.
The other side.
We're just the motorway, or
So I do think it's important, and one of the things about these conversations that I'm having is that I used to, when I was a new single mum, meet women who had their new life, and then and for me it would just look like they were a family and that was how things were, and they always had been. But they would say to me, oh, actually, Dave's my second husband, and when the kids were little, I was a single mum. And I think, I want to hear that story. Like, I want to hear how you made it through, and when did you meet Dave, and how did you work, and how did you make money, and where did you live, and all of this stuff for me is like the real kind of grounding stuff for single and solo mums to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
That life will go on and it will probably look very different.
I still feel that the narrative is very much kind of pitting women against each other. And that those stories aren't shared.
No.
No. And we do definitely need to hear more of it. And I think we also need to make space within ourselves for other people's stories being different, and accepting that might not be our path. It might be more challenging for us. We might not meet new husbands, or this kind of idea, and be supportive of other women on the journey.
One of the things I'm keen to say to people often when I'm coaching them is, I'm not actually worried about you, because I do believe you will find your path. you know.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing, I guess, about personal development and tuning into yourself, and from my end, coaching, and it sounds like you too, is that allows people, well, it kind of facilitates them to figure out what is their way to do this. You know, it's not prescriptive. It's not like you have to, you know, do these certain set of things and then you'll be, in inverted commas, successful. It's like, well, first let's define success.
Yeah.
You know, which I
Yeah.
did ask you to do, didn't I? And you said, supporting a child to grow into a self-assured, confident adult who genuinely cares about the things that are important to them.
Yeah.
So your daughter's 26 now.
She's going to be 26 on the 15th of February. So yeah, just coming up on 26 now. Yeah.
Aquarius, like my daughter. So.
Yeah, and me. I was the 23rd of January. So we're like both ends of that spectrum of Aquarius. Yeah.
And what is she doing in the world, and how does she relate to this journey, if she would be happy for you to share any of that?
Yeah, she would. You know, she works at Prezzo. And she's worked there for years. She went off to university, and she had like a holiday job there that she would do, and she's continued there. And you know, her university career was hit by COVID and everything that entailed. And there's part of me that goes, oh, my daughter, you know, she's very intelligent, she's got a degree and everything, she's working in a restaurant, waiting tables. Yeah. But the reality of that is she makes a bomb in money. She gets loads of tips and she takes weeks off here, there and everywhere and goes traveling.
Good.
And so she travels extensively still, which is something I instilled in her, I think, somewhat.
Mm-hmm. She's
a massive fan of social justice and a great ally, you know, disability ally. All of these things, very outspoken and loud and noisy about it.
Amazing.
And she's got a fine young fella, you know, that she's doing all right, and she just made her own way in the world, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And yeah, I love that she's got her voice. When she was younger, she was very, very shy, very timid, everything, and now she is not.
Well, with the context of what she was experiencing until she was perhaps about 10, it's no surprise. That is even more well, less extreme, more kind of covert versions of that kind of thing keep little girls very small, don't they?
Yeah.
Small and agreeable. So yeah, it's no surprise that she learned those tactics early, and I'm so glad to hear that she busted out of them. And no surprise really with you as a mum. So yeah. I looked at your website, which I absolutely love, and it's got a really gorgeous version of your story and, you know, what you're doing in the world. And I most often see you pop up in my feed around firewalk training now, isn't it? Yeah. So do you want to tell us something about that?
Yeah. So I train instructors, and I became qualified to training instructors about 8 years ago. And slowly but surely, I've really developed what I offer. I'm bold enough to say I'm the only person that offers firewalk training the way I do in the world, I would say now. So I'm here in Ireland, and we work very much with the ancestors of the land, the spirits of the land. So we don't just walk fire, we dance on it. We, you know, really experience that full kind of energetic bliss state from sitting with the fire and becoming the fire. And I think because of that, you know, I still pinch myself somewhat. People come from all over the world to learn from me, you know, America, Canada, Europe, UK, Ireland, you know, everywhere. And there's some of the best weeks of my life. Firewalk instructor training it's just, I love it. I could just do it again and again and again, you know.
It's your work in the world.
So I'm really fortunate to have that. And then the last couple of years, I've also become qualified to qualify masters myself. So that means that I have 2 other people now, one in Wales and one in the US, offering trainings, because
Your
of,
way.
yeah.
Amazing.
I see it growing, and I just, even, I just go on Instagram and I see firewalks from my students all over the world, and it just gives me the biggest buzz ever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. When your daughter was littler, I would love to hear about how you made work, if you did, how it worked, because I know it's really annoying when people have a woman, who's successful, and they ask her, how do you manage childcare, and which nobody ever asks men, it's
I
successful
know,
people.
right? I
But
know.
I do think by not lifting the veil on that, we do each other a bit of a disservice.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
it is a valuable conversation to have. Like, how did that work when she was really little? Was she going to school? Then when you went to Burkina Faso, who looked after her? All of that stuff. I'd love to hear.
So here, through her kind of primary school years, or most of her primary school years, I was very lucky. I moved to Oxfordshire, where my parents were, and I was able to rely on them heavily at one point for childcare. But I worked mornings, kind of ideal, like 8 through to early afternoon. So my dad would take my daughter to school, and then I would go and pick her up, was the general picture of things. One thing I did, which I think is quite unusual, am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Yeah, I told them to fuck the maintenance and managed on my own.
Yes.
And that is something that, I know it's not right for everybody, but I would, if somebody is struggling with their self-worth and their self-belief, it's something I would really strongly recommend. Or somebody that's come out of something that's been very abusive or gnarly, because we were absolutely penniless. I spent years kind of robbing from Peter to pay Paul, but it was, I was reliant on myself, and that was it. And I think to have been reliant on a man that had been abusive to me for so many years and continued to stalk me and everything else for so many years would not have done my self-worth and everything else any favors. So
I hear you on that, Lottie, and I will second it, because despite my situation being quite different, no kind of, overt abuse of any kind, I probably would have framed it at one point as somewhat emotionally abusive, but I probably wouldn't, emotionally immature is probably the word I'd use now. But I, like you, made that decision to not take any more maintenance. And I actually said, I'm sure he was flabbergasted and didn't know what I was talking about, but I actually said to my ex-husband at the time, I set you free and I set me free, and I will not take another penny from you. And then there were a few months where we continued with like 90% of the childcare being done by me, pretty much. But then when I moved closer to him, I pushed for 50-50 childcare. Our situation is very different. So, and that seemed to me a much better situation than the one in which I think I was receiving about 50p an hour, or something for my time. So
it just binds us to a reliance, and it's very much against what society teaches us. Society teaches us, we are entitled, and therefore we should dig our heels in and fight for it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I'm not arguing with somebody about money. He can have it. The house, when I left, he can have it. I did get some money in the end from the house, all of these things. I was just like, let him have it.
Yeah, well, it is another
way.
Yeah, which is incredibly strong, and I can totally understand how a lot of women do not feel that way. I wish I could remember the name of the book. If I can remember it, I'll put it in the show notes of the book that I read. That it was an American-based system, and the woman was speaking of the American system, but she was a strong advocate for not taking money and trying to be 50-50 parents, if that's possible, given the circumstances instead, you know. And I made that decision that day, having read that book, and went for it because there's something, you know, both you and I working with energy and, you know, embodied wisdom, and you can't put that on a spreadsheet to make sense, you know.
Exactly that. It's very counter popular belief and everything. But it felt really good to me to do that. And then so we were living in a small market town in Oxfordshire, and I was just lucky that my daughter's school was a small school, and she had like the best head teacher you could ever imagine. So when she was in year 5, I went into the head teacher and said, I'm taking Maddie to Burkina Faso for a year. And he was like, right, what do we need to do? Kind of idea. And so we did take some like workbooks with us and stuff. Maddie's quite nerdy, so like she enjoys maths, she enjoyed language and things like that. So on paper we could say I homeschooled her, but she just hung out.
Great. Amazing.
It was in the years, I don't know if you remember, like the Nintendo DS. I don't think you get them anymore. Those are good. And they had like language learning games and things like that. So we would do a bit of that and everything else. But she just hung out. She got filthy in the mud, and she learned the value of contentment with having a call. You know, so that that was my first encounter of living without electricity and without running water in the house. And even for water, you know, we would have to get these big plastic containers, go to the well at the school, fill those up with water. Then they'd be too heavy for me to carry, so I'd have to get help from someone to help me get them back and everything. And I wouldn't want to live like that long term, you know, but for a few months or whatever, I think it held so much value. To just go back to basics and just be, actually, I have nothing, but I have everything I need.
That's such a strong lesson to learn in your body as an adult, because a lot of us haven't had the opportunity to learn that lesson straight up. But so if you could visit younger Lottie at the beginning of her journey, wherever feels right to you, and impart some wisdom, give her some advice. Maybe she didn't want it, but you know, if you could let her know something that you know now that you didn't know back then, what would it be?
I guess that it's all going to be okay. Isn't that anything? Is there anything else we need to hear? I don't know. One book that's really impacted on me and how I live and the choices I make is The Surrender Experiment.
Oh, yes.
Do you know it? Yeah, by Michael Stringer, is it? Stringer?
Yes, that's a Stringer. Oh, can't remember. Yes.
He's the author of The Untethered Soul. Anyway, and so The Surrender Experiment is a bit of like his life story, right? And what he says is when an opportunity arises, like a big opportunity arises, even if he looks at it and goes, what the hell? He says yes, because he knows it's going to lead to something good. And I feel that served me so well through life. And some of the stuff I do is batshit crazy, and it's not going to be right for the majority of people. I get it. But it's been a really great journey, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And so I think that's what I would encourage me to do, maybe as my younger self, is to surrender more. I mean, I've done a pretty good job of it, but I still think, you know, just to trust the batshit crazy.
Yeah. When did you start to sort of tune into those types of ideas in your journey?
Oh, do- knowing what it was, probably more recently, the last kind of 6 or 8 years,
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
was surrendering to things before then, but that was more of a like almost like running away, Claire, if I'm honest. People will say, oh, you were so brave going to Burkina Faso. Oh, you were actually, I was just escaping
Hmm.
the hellhole I felt like I was in at the time. So it wasn't a surrender in that way. It was
Yeah.
I want to get away from this. So
Yes.
maybe the advice is to follow your heart for what you want, rather than always thinking about what you don't want. And we're all so good at that, aren't we?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
isn't what I want. This doesn't make me happy. What is going to make you happy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I
to
often,
go for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think, one of the great shames is that often people don't really know what it might be. They haven't
Yeah.
really had an opportunity to think about it much. There's so
Yeah.
many other pressures in life, or even just, for some of the women, maybe who'll be listening, basic survival.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to give much space for that. But I'm actually I've written a Maslow's hierarchy of needs and inversed it, like, so that actually, I think sometimes when I'm going through my hardest dark night of the soul type, really, really hard times, I feel the most connected to everything else in the universe.
Yeah,
I
totally.
don't know if that's been your experience too.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that there is that, when things are, it's because you're down in the dirt and the snot's running from your nose down into the dirt and everything else. And so we're just connected right down, right? It's like being in the sweat lodge or something, it is
Mhm.
that
It's so
darkness happens
visceral.
in that hole.
Yeah.
It's when we're in a confined space, we are connected,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
the shitty stuff and the good stuff,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Yeah,
Hmm.
without a doubt. And I think it's also okay to take it, just small bits at a time. I'm
Hmm.
sure you work with your coaching clients, with like, we don't have to have, the big picture, have it all worked out. You can just go one step at a time, one day at a time.
Mm.
And for me, it's been expect the unexpected, to trust. Uh,
Yes, yes.
I loved what you did recently about your relationship and your relationship breakup, and getting
Mm.
individuals to sign up to receive that and the updates on that and everything. And that's something I'm thinking of doing, about the story of how I ended up here on the
Mm.
farm in Ireland, because I I received a WhatsApp message from somebody I'd only met a few weeks beforehand, with an aerial view of the farm. And I was like, oh, wow, that's gorgeous. Where is that? Da, 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 da. They told me where it is. And then the next message said, it's yours.
Oh,
And
oh,
now here I am, in a farmhouse in Ireland, living on 14 acres of land
incredible.
and everything. So often things are better than we ever expect them to be. And
Mm.
but we've got to change our focus to that, rather than the looking behind. And it can be really difficult, I
Mm.
think, particularly for people whose relationship breakups have not been expected.
100%. I feel it is very pertinent to say that in my situation, it was my choice to leave my marriage.
Mm,
And I often think I'm probably not the coach for a woman who's been cheated on, or betrayed in some other way. It's a very different journey. I think
yeah,
there will be resonances along the journey, but there's a different kind of healing to do there with that betrayal of trust.
yeah,
Um, that I, that I, like I'm saying, maybe the deeper down you go, the more you get to explode out of that into something wonderful. And I really do believe that.
Yeah.
That yeah, it's difficult in a variety of different ways for women on this journey,
Yeah.
in really practical ways, financial ways, emotional, spiritual, psychological. We've just got to hold space for ourselves to go through all of that, whilst also looking after however many children, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
So how was that for you?
what the
The looking after, the sort of holding space for.
yeah, at times, really difficult. Really
Mm,
difficult. It's difficult when you're parenting and there's no one to discuss it with.
yes.
And I'm sure people that are, still in touch with the ex-partner and maybe co-parenting in some way or other would say, well, it's really difficult because I have to run everything past this other person or whatever. So I'm not saying one is more difficult than the other, but making those decisions just by yourself takes a lot of bandwidth
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
and a lot of energy and everything else. I made the decision not to tell my daughter the things her dad had done.
Mm, mm,
Because he kept taking us through the courts and was trying to get contact and had that little bit of contact in a specialized contact center. Like the contact center, we had to travel into London every week because he was only allowed contact with 2 professionals with him in the room every time and things like that, And and that was really difficult because part of me really wanted to protect her
yeah.
from him. But it was also at the time, luckily the law changed last year, where the courts were made to be supportive of abusive absent parents having contact.
Mm,
It's changed now.
yeah.
And so I knew he was going to get some contact and some form of contact, and that was going to, and so I wanted her to be able to make up her own mind, but that was like a really difficult decision.
Yes, that's really hard. And I know with all of these things, I feel that it's another thing where we we need opportunities to get to know who we really are, so that all of those decisions can start to flow from who we really are, rather than from social norms or from external
Yeah,
pressure or from what you think you should do,
yeah,
beliefs held from long ago that aren't really yours, all of this stuff.
all of this, all
Hmm.
of this, and so yeah, I would say that was one of the hardest things, was just the decision making.
Yeah.
And when you're the one doing everything, it's tiring as well.
Mhm.
Another thing that I used to find difficult was like dating. Yeah. Because I was solo parenting, I never got a weekend off.
No, no.
I never, so all of that, so that was a journey.
Mm, yes,
Yeah,
I
because
have
like
a lot.
how do you go on a date when it might be your only night out in 2 months, so then you've got to weigh up, like, do I want to go on a date, or do I want to see my friends, or do I want to,
Yeah, have
you
a
know
bath.
and then do I tell my daughter I'm going on a date, because
Mm,
it might just be
mm,
a one-off date, and then
mhm.
this, and what is that going to instill inside her, and all of these things
Yes.
um were challenging. Yeah, time
Mm.
management becomes challenging. Having to cook every day
Oh,
becomes
I know.
challenging.
It's a good job that my kids consider a cereal dinner to be a treat.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
learned that early on in my mothering journey from mum, who was just a lovely person, and she was like, "Look, watch this," and fed all of our children cereal for dinner. She's like, "They love it. They absolutely love it. Don't feel guilty."
yeah, exactly that.
So yeah,
Yeah,
but I think guilt and shame around. There are so many ridiculous sort of preconceptions, misconceptions about single mums and how they operate in the world. You know, we're not supposed to be in any way sexual or sensual or any of that stuff. It's like, well,
Yeah.
how do you think the baby got here in the first place? You know?
Yeah. Exactly that. And I don't know, like I'm sure you've seen it, that meme that goes around on social media every so often about, if a single mum does something, she's considered to be a bad mum. But if a single dad does the same thing, he's a great dad,
Yeah, literally the bare minimum.
buying takeaway, or this kind of idea.
Taking them to a birthday party,
Yeah, exactly that. Laundering their t-shirts, or whatever it is. And so I think the expectation on us as women, as mothers, ridiculous.
Yes, one of my acts of micro-feminism is that I have only done half of those types of things. And so I did an ecology degree, right? And we learned that one of the things I remember, which is not much, but that baby birds need a certain amount of food, and the mother and the father will come and provide the food. And the amount of food the baby birds need does not change, but the effort levels of the mother and the father evens out, so that babies always get the right amount of food, but they might have a bit of a lazy dad or a bit of a lazy mum, And I thought to myself, well, that's what's basically going to happen, isn't it? The kids are going to go to dentist appointments, they're going to get their hair cut, forms are going to need filled in for school, and if I step up and do 90% of it, he'll do 10, and the kids will get everything they need. But I could also just take a little step back. And so as it happens, like, they're registered with the doctor with me, but the dentist with him. He gets haircuts sorted. I tend to do school shoes. It's like across the time, it's just sort of a natural equilibrium of balance. And I think a lot of women don't trust that process. And maybe they don't have as responsible co-parent as I do. He is a particularly responsible type of person. So that's fair. But also, there's an enabling process, or maybe perfectionism process in women. I think we can find it quite hard to acknowledge or accept about ourselves, where we can't just let them have the wrong pair of shoes and the dad suffers the consequences of it, the complaints about those shoes or whatever, until the next time they learn, oh, it has to be this type of shoe, or there's gonna be hell to pay, that kind of process of like trusting that it could even out. Again, very different situations, so sometimes this will not be true, but
I do think, and this is like generalizing, of course, but like within most heterosexual relationships, even when both parents are together, that's what we see.
Yeah, for sure.
And therefore that's where the point of reference women have. And the buck stops with them. I mean, I could talk all day about the patriarchy and the microfeminism and everything.
That's another podcast. We'll record that.
But it is, and I think it's good. Maybe what the good thing is to get clear on where you stand on it, and either accept the responsibility and go, this is what I'm going to do, and everything, and I'm taking this on, and everything, or not, because I think what happens otherwise is a lot of bitterness builds up, and I think that would be another bit of advice that I would give, is that if you are a single parent, like you're co-parenting, but in different locations and so on, I see a lot of like bickering starts and arguments start about the whys and wherefores of it all, and that impacts on the child. So where you can, don't roll over and show your belly because you don't want to bicker, but also just get clear in your head of like what your expectations are of yourself and so on, so that you can avoid the bickering where possible.
This is interesting. I do, bickering obviously does impact on kids. And then I also have had this journey with it where, for myself personally, I think there's a very subconscious process of keeping the peace at my own expense,
Yeah.
which I am addressing at the moment with interesting results, shall we say.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too present in my life to be going into details just now, but
Sure.
I'm noticing that there was a deep intelligence in what I was doing, because I probably knew at some level what the consequences would be if I didn't subtly keep the peace here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
And instead, actually, I'm somebody who's done a lot of personal development work and knows herself very deeply, and also is very emotionally attuned to her kids. And I should actually be able to be an authority in what happens in our lives,
Yes.
And
Yeah, totally.
it doesn't match the other side of what supposedly needs to be happening, and that impacts on my life. And am I prepared for that to be the case moving forwards? These are questions I've been asking myself recently, that when I think we've avoided all that bickering stuff, it looks great on the
Yeah.
outside, but how does it feel?
Yeah.
So, and not just for the kids, because yes, the kids absolutely, but I've sort of long thought, the person from even from a nervous system point of view, the person who really needs to be okay is mum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
So it's a balance. It's always going to be a balance. And
It is the balance, and that's why it's important to make the decisions and actually think it through. Like, what do you want to take responsibility for? Where does that need to open up?
Yeah,
And everything.
for sure.
And
so,
what apples can you drop, I guess?
Yes, well, that is actually something that's very valuable to say. I, for sure, deliberately wrote a list right at the beginning of getting separated and divorced. And I wrote a list of everything that I had to do in my life. And I divided it into 3. One was, this does not, if I never did this again, it would not matter.
Yeah.
One was, I could outsource, beg, steal or borrow, ask somebody to do this, pay somebody to do this, and the other one was like, I absolutely have to do this. And actually that list was surprisingly short.
Yeah.
And I haven't expanded it much since, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm about 8 years out now, so
Oh, that's good though.
Yeah, so that's worth doing, is just to check in with everything that we're doing in these busy lives and go, necessary, really. So I was wondering, I think you've talked a fair bit about what they might be, but I'd love to hear what would be one big freedom that you've felt as a solo mum that you probably wouldn't have had as a partnered mum.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it now, so many, and I wish, this is something that I did wish I'd known at the time, actually. Like, this is the freedom, this is what I can do. So obviously the travel, the adventure, and yes, making decisions on your own can be difficult, but I actually, looking back on it, I'm really happy that I'm the one that got to make the decisions.
Yeah.
And therefore I feel I've done a really good job of raising an amazing adult. So those things, I wish I'd celebrated the successes more as I'd gone through. You want to look back now, it was, you know what kids are like. It's one phase after another.
Yeah.
Right from when they come out to 26 and counting,
Yeah.
Just think you've got on top of it, and then it's the next phase and the next thing. And so I wish I'd taken more time along the journey to celebrate the little wins. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. I love that.
Yeah.
If you could point at a single mum or solo mum that you've found inspiring along the way, can you think of one off the top of your head?
My sister's amazing.
Okay.
I don't sure if my sister is a widow, and I won't share too much of her story, but you should get on the podcast at some point. She's a widow. She's disabled, a wheelchair user. She has 2 sons who are both autistic and everything, and she works part-time for the NHS in a managerial role for a big sector of the country, and she teaches on allyship as well.
Amazing. Okay.
And she has inspired me, definitely. I don't know about celebrities or people out there, you know,
Yeah.
everybody would know. I'm not a celebrity kind of person. I don't have a TV. I'm obviously on social media and consume somewhat, but I don't over consume social media. So
Yeah.
and just the people that are just doing it, Claire, do you know what I mean? When I finished Kilimanjaro, so when we did Kilimanjaro, we had the worst weather on Kilimanjaro in a 10-year period. Many of us did not summit. There were people dying on the summit the night of our summit attempt. And if you see the videos and the pictures of, you know, my group, all the snow and the ice, you know, that the hoods were crackling, and, you know, not these pictures that you see normally, the summit pictures you may well have seen, the people on Kilimanjaro. That was not our experience. And then a few weeks later, a like amputee, 4-limb amputee, like legs at knees, and I think, did he have arms? He was just anyway, somebody significantly disabled summited Kilimanjaro, and I thought, you fucker. Like, do you know what I mean? It was like, because sometimes we can look at these, and what an amazing, inspiring man I'd like, but at the same time, these stories are extreme, and I think, like, sometimes I think that about my own story. It's quite extreme,
Okay.
and it's not, you know, it's not most people's experience of life. And I think that's the thing. The people I admire, the people that are just living it, just out there doing it, doing the best they can, making the best decisions they can. And, you know, as I say, I feel like as women, we're pitted against each other in this whole kind of single mum. I know, like, for me, being a solo mum, I would find it difficult when single mums would complain about their partner missing a Wednesday, and I'd be like, you do not know
Try
how much
doing every Wednesday.
Wednesday, you know, this kind of
Yeah.
idea. And you know, and then, you know, women fighting for maintenance, and they get a good outcome, and all this. I feel like as women, we're pitted against each other a lot,
Perpetually,
to judge each other in these circumstances. Yeah. Oh, she's only been a single mum for 18 months, and she's already in another relationship and happy, and I'm not happy. I'm single. I can't. Yeah. All these things. And so the ones that are just out there doing it and finding little ways to maybe support other people, or, you know, even if it's just saying it out loud, I'm really proud of you, the way you're doing. You know, these things, they're the people that truly inspire me, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a gorgeous message. And I'm proud of you for what you did and continue to do.
Yeah. But I do think that, you know, women, and you know, we can see these celebrity women, and they've got it all, and they have it all, and, you know, and that 3 months after having their babies, they've got their bodies looking like they were born on Bondi Beach, and all of these things, you know. And
well, I will share that in the beginning, and probably the seed of the idea for this podcast really was when I was way back when 8 years ago. And I'm not going to say this every time I record the podcast, but I'll say it this time. So I looked at, I know she is now known as She Who Must Not Be Named, but J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
her single mom journey, you know,
Yeah.
and she had written those books and she'd been super successful, not as successful in inverted commas as she is now, but you know, she had already reached a measure of success 8 years ago that was, for me, inspiring. And
Yeah.
I looked at her journey and I thought to myself, okay, I hear because I had lived in Edinburgh, so that kind of resonated with me as well. I hear that she sat in the coffee shop and wrote the books and lived off of baked beans. And I hear she's very successful now, and that was where she was. But what happened in the middle? What happened
Yes.
in the middle? How did
Yeah.
she afford a coffee? How did she have time to sit and write, you know, the books, the endless
Yeah.
books? Like, okay, so she was feeding baked beans but having coffees in coffee shops, which is not
Yeah.
something that seemed achievable to me at that time, you know, and sometimes not even now, you know. So it's like,
Yes.
wait a minute, how do we go from here to here? And that's the conversation that I'm really glad that we have had today. So I want to thank you very
Yeah.
much for showing up
And
for that.
but isn't it interesting now we see the impact of all that oozing out through
Mm-hmm.
her? There's so much bitterness in that woman.
Yes, well, that's true. I hadn't actually thought of
And
it like that.
and
Yeah.
you know, and real nastiness coming out now from her. I'm sorry for any Harry Potter fans that are watching, but she's a really unpleasant person. Really unpleasant person. And you know, it's all oozing out. Whatever she did to create those books and everything, she was holding a lot of shit inside her.
Yeah,
And
which
now it's
inevitably
come
comes
out
out.
all the gaps.
Yeah, some way, shape. I mean, to
Yeah,
make a whole life about persecuting other people just seems really
yeah.
weird to me. But
Um,
you know, do some
yeah.
healing.
So,
That's
yeah,
you know,
exactly that.
go do some
You know,
healing.
and you know, sometimes that is the people that we feel are inspiring actually are not keeping their shit together. They might be on the surface what we see, but we
Mhm.
don't know what's going on underneath, do we? Whereas the people that are, you know, breaking down on the school run, snot dribbling from the notes because it's all gone wrong, you know,
Yeah.
they're the people I want to hear the stories of. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, which is what I am attempting to do here and in a variety
Yeah.
of different stories, you know, because once we see the edge of what's possible, you know, maybe our wild ideas about our lives don't look so unachievable.
Yeah, definitely.
So let yourself be the edge of what's possible if that's how it is for
Yeah.
somebody listening, you know. Um, so you can find Lottie's business at, correct me if I'm wrong, thewildsoultribe.com.
Yeah, little
Yeah.
line in between each word just to make it
Line
complicated.
in between. Okay, great. Thank you. And Insta is the best place to contact you,
Yeah.
wild.soul.tribe.
Yeah.
And you'll immediately see all the fire walking and know that you're in the right place.
Yeah.
But I will drop the details as well in the show notes so that people
Oh, thanks,
can
Claire.
find you. And
Yeah.
I want to thank you again very much for showing up.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's lovely.
And thank the listeners for their attention. And let's just say, you know, keep going to everybody out there and believe in yourself first and foremost, because whatever
Yeah.
else there is to believe in, it's sometimes not much. And, you know, I believe, I'm sure Lottie believes that you'll find your way. It will probably be one step at a time.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Thank you.